Thank you. Present here for the committee, myself, Lydia Tang, Howard Collins and Lydia Tang. Present remotely, Morris Peters. Present for the corporation, Trevika Amin, our CFO and Vice President, and also Mary Kunine, our COO and Vice President. Present also for the board, our new members, Mark Block and Melissa Wade.
Yay, welcome.
So I can't think of anything more interesting.
And then we also have Marcus Louis, our Deputy Controller.
Right, Marcus Louis, our Deputy Controller, is here. Joining us by remote is John Costello, our partner on the accounting engagement. And I see Samit Hope, Sivan Badasi, and everyone else who's busy watching. Okay, so let's see, what's our agenda today?
Do you need a copy?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I can go through it in the right order.
Yes.
The first item of business is the annual financial statement for the fiscal year ending March 31st.
And I just want to point out all the items on the agenda from A through E are all part of the annual report package.
Okay, so let me back up for our new members especially. REAC is a public authority, sends a report 3 months after our fiscal year end to Paris, Public Authority Reporting Information System. And so the audit and these components will summarize all of REAC's operation from the financial perspective, but also talking about actual accomplishments during the year. And it's a very informative document and very helpful to review when you have a chance in the next day or two.
So this is a backward-looking document?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, we're looking back from 3/31, 25 year end. In contradistinction, in December, we adopt a budget for the year commencing 4/1/25 in this instance. So there's a bit of lag there, but that's a very important document. So, audit financial statements.
Well, before I introduce John, who's a partner at the EFPR group, to do the audit presentation, I just want to say that all the disclosures are clear, significant items were reviewed, and there were no disagreements with management. And the auditors have already provided a reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatements. And they are looking to provide an unmodified clean opinion.
Okay. So, John, yes. Can we hear you? John,
Hi, John, can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, great.
Okay. I can't hear you. It looks like you have your microphone off.
Yeah. Is our microphone on here?
I can hear you fine.
Morris, you can hear us, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, well,
Are you getting feedback or something? Because we could hear you clearly.
John, we were able to hear you just before, and Morris, who's on remote, was able to hear us on our micing system.
Let's see. He had in the chat said, "Is your microphone turned off?" I'll respond.
Um,
We could
okay, I
hear.
can't hear anything from your end. I'm going to leave and log back in. Okay,
We still.
Can you hear us?
Morris, you said you could hear me. Can you hear the conference room?
Yep, I'm responding. I can hear the room. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to leave and log back in. There might be something wrong with my audio setting. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And let the tape reflect that board member Faye Christian has joined us.
Howard, while he's logging back in, we'll just for my own clarity, we'll have to assign committee assignments to our new trustees, who I'm very happy to see here at the audit committee. But we're
Okay, I still can't hear.
Yep, I can hear you.
John, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm going to call in. I can't.
I think he's going to call in. But Howard, in terms of this committee, the people who are actually on this committee are you, me, and Lydia now? Is that it?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
So there's still one opening?
Yes.
For audit committee, and then on the governance committee, it's myself, Conway, and Megan, so there's still one opening on the governance committee. I was just talking to Howard about REDAC. He said there's two people right now, him and Mahal. And so there's two openings on the REDAC committee, and Faye, since you're here, people on the operations advisory committee, David Kraut stepped down, so there's at least one, but it would be, I guess, Faye and Howard and myself.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's one opening on the operations.
Okay. I logged in by my phone. For the audio.
You may have to mute on the
Mute your
screen.
computer. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear us now, John?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. Okay, and you're not echoing. Okay, I think our technology is handled.
Yeah, sometimes my computer likes to switch between audio settings and.
Okay. Well, in any event, we're looking at the audited financial statements, and can you give a recital of the audit process and how matters stands right now?
Okay, we discuss the audit with management. We design our processes based on our assessment of risk. And then we perform substantive procedures based on a calculation of materiality, and we go from there. As of right now, the only outstanding item would be the management representation letter, which we get once the board has approved the financial statements. Financial statements that were prepared by management are well stated and all required disclosures are presented. All information requested was provided in a timely manner and there are no disagreements with management. Share my, you don't have share screen enabled. Management does not anticipate any events subsequent to year end, which would require accrual or disclosure. Last year drafts were approved by the audit committee and our reports were dated June 20th, 2024. Is it possible to get the share screen activated so I could bring something up?
Mohammed, can you do that?
Can you allow him to share screen?
Mhm.
Is it a share on the website? But where do you want to share?
Let him share.
He
the
needs
screen.
to share. He needs to share a presentation.
He wants to share.
External is sharing, not us.
You have a USB?
No, he,
External,
the-
The gentleman, John, wants to share his screen.
Then he needs to share.
Right.
Mhm.
Just make him a
You should be
presenter.
able to share.
For the people,
Oh,
make him a
you
presenter.
should tell us before,
Okay. Do you want to go to
hold on one
people
For
as,
the people, make
yes.
him a presenter.
Mm-hmm,
Oh,
yes.
go to, can you just go to share screen?
No, he was up.
Up high,
Up.
yeah. Make a presenter.
Change, yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you,
He was made a presenter.
Okay.
Can you make that bigger? Full screen, I don't know.
So can you see this presentation?
It's tiny.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, John.
Yeah, there was a screen that was in the way. Okay, so I just went over this section. Our results, we will be issuing an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements. That's exactly what you want. No material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal control over financial reporting were identified. No instances of noncompliance or other matters required to be reported under government auditing standards were identified. Excuse me. And no instances of noncompliance with corporation procurement policies were noted. This summarizes your change in net position for the years ended March 31st, 2025 and 2024. The 2025 numbers are slightly different from the preliminary graphs that you received. We received information on Friday regarding HRR's distributions to REAC for 2025, or for their fiscal year ending 2024. So we recorded an additional $425,000 worth of commercial rent and a related receivable. So the numbers are slightly different from what you see in there by that amount. So here's your results. Your operating revenues were 43.2 this year. Last year they were 36.5. Your operating expenses were 40.3 this year, and last year they were 37.3. So your operating income before depreciation for 2025 was 2.9 million, where last year there was a deficit of 800,000. So overall, your change in net position for 2025 was a decrease of 5.5 million, whereas last year it was 9.2. This gives you net position at the end of the year of $96.9 million. Residential fees increased from TIP payments related to Riverwalk 9. Tramway revenue decreased as total ridership on the tram decreased from 3 million people from 3.4 million rides due to maintenance upgrades and DOT imposed speed restrictions. Other revenue increased as a result of increased memberships to the sports park, an engineering litigation settlement, and a fee to eliminate the developer's contractual obligations to install lighting at firefighters field. Personal services increased as a result of increased employee benefit costs. There's no one specific area. There was just generally increases across the board in employee benefit related costs. Insurance increased as a result of assessments when the corporation went out for policy renewals. Professional services and legal services increased primarily from employment matters, litigation settlements, and maintenance contracts. And management fees increased from increased fees related to the tramway and motorgate operations. So essentially that's the broad overview of the results for the year ended 3/31/25. Are there any specific questions or things you'd like me to talk about?
Yeah, can I ask?
Yes,
Sure.
of course.
Why is there such a huge increase in residential fees?
That's due to, we have something called the tax equivalency payment, where we receive 0.1% of like the assessed values of the buildings. And also there are condo sale fees, so we don't know when, these sales are going to happen. So if there's numerous, sales in these condos, we do get a percentage fee of that. Then also, we received a transaction fee from Building 9 as a tax equivalency payment. Building 9 is a new building that just opened by Hudson Related, and because they housed Memorial Sloan Kettering, who is an exempt purchaser, we do get a fee, a transaction fee for that, if they decide to house exempt purchasers in their building.
So the increase is not guaranteed for 2026, right?
Correct, exactly. It varies.
Okay.
Mhm.
So basically, a lot of it's a transaction fee because of the closing and completion of Building 9.
I got that.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, we're down on tram, but net positions increased. We now have a higher base ground rent receivable because of the existence of Building 9.
Yeah.
We will have some interesting expenses this year, which you'll learn about very soon. But nothing unusual with the operation. We have a capital plan that you'll learn about, and of course, the object is to match resources against expected capital needs. For the most part, it's well structured, meaning that the intent is not to have to do emergency services, which are expensive and very consuming. So I think, looking over the statements, it seems like we're on trend considering, we just spent a lot of money on buses, and we finally got the last bit of major capital infusion from property completion. With that said, we have to be in a careful mode for the next 5-10 years at least, as we finish up certain capital items, roadways particularly, that come up without having the ability to expect the large capital infusions that we've gotten from periodic real estate completions.
Yes, and to add to that, so relatively, the organization is in good health, because we do have net income, of about 2.9 million. And in regards to the CapEx that Howard was mentioning, we were budgeted to spend about 6.4 in capital projects for fiscal year 24-25, but we only spent about 4 million. So we have savings of, 2.4. That could be used towards other projects.
Yeah, we canceled a project in there, right, the bike?
Correct.
We canceled the bike one,
That is right.
that led to the decrease in expenses. So that's a good thing.
And, a cash infusion to subsidize that project, to repurpose to the roadway project that we have, which is very helpful. Thank you, Mary. Okay, John, anything further?
No, I just want to note that, you did receive a $29 million payment related to the opening of, or the certificate of occupancy for Building 9 that has been deferred as part of the leases and added to the deferred inflows of leases and will be amortized over the life of the remaining life of the lease.
Okay,
So you're not seeing a big revenue stream in the current year, even though you received the cash.
right.
Correct.
Yeah, a number of the Southtown buildings are designed so that we get a massive cash infusion, which represents, if I remember properly, 40% of the ground rent, which is then valued down to a lump sum payment. So we hold that, and we recognize that ratably over the various years. In addition, we get the balance as ordinary ground rent under their different agreements. Great. So
what page was that? Sorry.
Hmm?
What page are we up to now?
Oh.
He was looking at page 18, the statement of revenue expenses and changes in net position. John, are you going to proceed further?
I think overall, looking at like your cash flows are, your net cash provided by operating activities was 27 million. But again, a lot of that was cash received related to the Building 9 payment. But overall, and you have 34, got $35 million in cash and short-term investments, with operating expenses of before depreciation of 40.3 million. So you're on an operational basis, you're more than well funded. Yeah, the cash flows are shown on page 21. Not sure if that's the same page as the preliminary draft.
Well, the confusion usually is that we have the annual report summary, and that repeats schedules that will occur in the body of the audited financial statements.
Yeah, a lot of this is repeated.
Yeah, so, 21 is different than mine 20.
It's a different document, so we're actually.
It's the auditor's report, page 21.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So the auditor's report,
Auditor's.
yeah, there you are.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
Yeah, it was very confusing reading through it. I was like, I've read this already.
Yes. Because each section may have duplicate schedules.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the way it's set up when you have to file.
Yeah. These numbers you had already given us months ago, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
So I've read these before.
yes, as of 3/31.
Yeah, so I've read
Mhm.
these before, so I didn't really,
Mhm.
I did ask questions about it before,
Yeah.
months ago. So, yeah, so I didn't reread them because I just assumed that these were the exact same numbers you gave me before.
Mhm. Yes. No material changes. Did we want to review the balance sheet, John?
I could go over that. Again, your cash and short-term equivalents went up about just over 30 million, just under 30 million. Again, that was your payment from related to Building 9. Overall, the other current assets are fairly consistent. Same with your lease receivables and your capital assets. Your deferred inflows and outflows of resources, those changed by about $1.5 million. Those are actuarially determined by New York State for the pensions, as well as your hired actuary for other post-employment benefits, or OPEB.
What page, please?
19.
In the auditor's report, the board didn't go further than that.
Page 19. Yes, thank you.
And just to go back to the current assets for the short-term investments, we do have about 29.6 million invested in treasury bills. Because as a public agency, we're restricted from investing in stocks and other types of securities, but we're allowed to invest in treasury bills. So that can bring in, further revenue, about $1.3 million based on the current interest rate that we're getting on it, which is about 4.3%.
So what securities are you allowed to invest in? Treasuries, are you allowed to invest in commercial paper or nothing?
No.
Just treasuries?
Mm-hmm.
That's the only-
Exactly, yes.
Can you invest in state bonds or just treasury bills?
Just treasury bonds.
I'm not
Yes.
challenging
No, I
you to
know.
invest in, I'm just
Yes.
curious.
Just treasury bonds. Mhm. You could invest also in state-backed, government pools, but we haven't come across one.
Okay.
One of the nice things about the annual report is that the investment guidelines are included, the procurement guidelines are included. So it's a way of coming up to speed. And the recitals are pretty good on the history of the various buildings and the assets that REAC operates. I'm sure as long-term residents, you know most of them. So just to have a picture here is useful because the annual report is a very, very fine snapshot, and I'm not sure how much it's studied. Let's say. Okay, so if you could just talk about the audit process very briefly to remind us. Now, the audit is done based on your assessment of the nature of REAC as the employer. You determine what your sample size will be. You determine, knowing the operation, what areas of the operation should be more scrutinized. Naturally, you'll do a payroll test and that sort of thing. Could you talk further on that?
Yes, again, we assess the risk, and that we do get a materiality, which gives us our scope and tolerable misstatement. Then we do substantive testing and sampling based on that scope. So for each classification on the balance sheet, we go through and we apply the relevant scope to those groupings, and we substantively test any individual amounts in that account grouping over the scope. So the sample size, and well, then we compare the dollar value of our what's above scope to the overall dollar value of the account group. And then we have another formula that determines if we have to randomly sample the remaining balance. So let's say for receivables, we have a scope of 200,000. We've got 5, so we're testing $1 million, but the balance is, I'm just picking numbers just for an example.
Sure.
It's 10 million. They'll then say, well, okay, well, you're only testing 1 million. Based on this formula, you have to go back in and test another 10 samples randomly. So we would pick anything from 1 cent all the way up to our scope limit for that sample, just to get a random selection, and then we test those. For like receivables, we test the cash receipts and look at the invoices sent out to make sure that it's proper receivable in the proper year. We do the same thing with payables. We test cash disbursements after year end over a scope to make sure that we're picking up all the material accounts payables. We compare that to the accounts payables listings. We do a payroll test. We look at your 941s that are filed. We compare those to your salary expenses, plus and then back out the accrual from this year and that year, from this year and last year. To make sure it appears reasonable, we get your year-end payroll report that includes 3/31/25, and we verify that your payroll accrual looks reasonable, that you're picking up an appropriate amount of expenses. Total OPEB liability and net pension liability, again, those are reports prepared by third parties, pensions by New York State. Your OPEB, you hire an actuary to perform that calculation. Those numbers and the related deferred inflows and outflows come straight off those reports. We recalculate the New York State pension based on other New York State reports to make sure that what they're reporting to you is what KPMG reported to the state. For the OPEB, we look at...
It'd be based on the percentage exposure, right?
Pardon?
The percentage, based on the percentage participation between the two groups, right? For the KPMG report.
Oh, yes, well, KPMG does the actual valuation for the pensions and reports it to New York State. New York State then turns around and provides a report to you. So we go to the KPMG report, which says like your percentage of the overall pension liability, and we go and we recalculate that, and we compare what they say your report should be versus what New York State says it is, to make sure that that New York State's report agrees to KPMG's report.
Okay.
So can I ask you, OPEB, OPEB, what does this acronym stand for?
Other post-employment benefit.
Huh? Other post-employment?
That's basically post-employment medical.
Correct,
Yes.
exactly, after you retire.
Okay.
Yeah, a number of years ago, GASB decided that government should be more comparable to private sector. So they required this calculation for OPEB. Essentially what it is what would the costs for current employees and retirees be going out to the future as of the measurement date? So it's not a real liability. It's a non-cash item, but it says, well, if you were to stop business and have to fund retirement for your employees, this is what your liability would be. It's a non-cash item. You pay your health insurance bills every month. But they want it on there for comparability to private sector. And every year it changes based on the discount rate.
And the trend rate.
So if currently the discount rate goes down by 1%, your OPEB liability will go down by 4 million. If it goes up by 1%, I'm sorry, if your discount rate goes down by 1%, you would go up 4 million. If it goes up 1%, you'll go down about 3 million. So the liability changes every year based on the discount rate. And then the related deferred inflows and outflows change as well as they do their calculations. So that's all a non-cash item. Same with like the pensions. You pay your pension bill once a year, but this is saying, again, for comparability, they wanted pensions in there. So they're saying of the New York State and local employees retirement fund, this is your portion of the calculated deficit. And so it goes on there, you have your inflows and outflows. And again, these change based on the discount rate. So your pension is currently at 5.9% discount rate. If it decreases 1%, you go from a 1.6 million to a $5.1 million liability. And if the discount rate goes up 1%, you go from a $1.6 million liability to a $1.3 million asset. So again, they just wanted comparability to private sector.
Could you also, we have some new board members, talk about GASB recognition for leases?
Yes. GASB brought in, GASB 87 was implemented 3 years ago. It was supposed to be implemented in 2019, but due to the pandemic, it was delayed. So essentially what they wanted was you take the net present value of your future payments for your signed leases that are non-cancelable. You do the net present value, and that becomes your lease receivable. And then as the lease payments come in on a monthly basis, there's the calculation, you have your principal, so your payments come in, they reduce the principal, and then there's the interest component, which goes to interest income. There's also the deferred inflow related to the leases. This was the net present value of the lease when it was initially calculated, plus any payments received up front. So on the advance payments of rent, there used to be a deferred revenue that was amortized over the remaining life of the lease, the lease. Now it's blended into this recalculation. So it's the payments received up front plus the net present value of your deferred or of your lease receivable, and that's amortized over the life of the lease. So as the payments come in, you reduce the principal, you get interest income, and then you amortize the deferred inflow of leases, and that goes against your ground rent, or goes to your ground rent.
Okay, so basically they took one number in concepts, which was the ground rent we got this year, and now we have four numbers, some large and offsetting that show up in the report.
Yes, so the revenue or the payment you received was added to the Building 9 deferred inflows of resources as part of the lease and amortized over the remaining life of the lease, along with at the same rate that the deferred inflows were calculated when the lease receivable was calculated.
Okay,
And it's also discounted at 3%.
Not the payment that was received upfront.
Yes, not
So-
that one, but,
Yes, the lease
But you're-
receivables were discounted at 3%, and the beginning lease receivable became your beginning deferred inflows, plus any cash received upfront at that point in time.
so for GASB 87, we're using 3%.
mhm,
So,
that's correct. So essentially, GASB 87 reflects the amortization of the leases and then the recognition of interest over the lease term.
Okay,
Yes, 3% was reasonable when it was initially calculated. You're not supposed to change the calculation unless there's like a material change to the lease itself. So once it's calculated, it's calculated. Unless there's some dramatic change where you can say, well, that calculation's materially incorrect to the current data.
okay.
Okay, at the risk of sounding stupid, leases for what?
Buildings.
Sorry, building leases.
Yeah,
Okay, so ground
The
rent,
ground,
the ground lease.
commercial,
okay.
yeah,
And that's why we have these two very large numbers that mostly offset one another. The present value of the future lease and the present value of the payments against it. And then we have also interest, a weird large interest number that may show up. And then we also have the recognition amount, the payments.
mhm, correct, exactly. Yeah, because if you receive advance payment up front, it's counted as unearned revenue. So you have to show it on your balance sheet, and then every year annually, as you recognize the interest, you move it to the income statement as revenue. So initially, it's not all counted as revenue.
Okay, that's clear as mud.
So what page are we on now?
We are looking at page 19.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, okay, I think this is well prepared. I mean, I really only had time to focus on the annual report pages, which filter into components down here. So you'd have some questions about those primarily. But no, I'm glad to hear that the audit is in good order, and that really you're waiting for the board to approve the annual report, and then you'll have your package complete. Is that about right?
Correct. Once it's approved, we send the rep letter. When we get it, and the date of the letter is the date of the board approval, which will be the date of our reports. And our report would be out within a day or two of receiving back the rep letter.
Okay. We're scheduled to meet on the 23rd to consider this, so that should be adequate time.
Yes, let's see, the 23rd is, oh, I can't click there.
Monday.
Your week.
Yeah, so the 23rd is a Monday. Yeah, so at the latest, if it's approved Monday night, I can send the rep letter Monday. We just need it returned after it's been approved. I get the financials dated on the 24th. It would either go out the 24th or the 25th. That's final.
Okay. And everything else internally will be in place at that time. Great, great.
So I had a couple of questions. Are we?
Yep, next question.
Okay, so, let's see. I had sent these questions out, and so I'm not clear on page 25. I'm way past page 19, so I apologize. Should I wait? I can wait, but do we need to go through other stuff?
can go through your questions.
Okay, so, page 25, there's a whole list of capital assets continued, and I am unsure about what the, seawall 73, buildings 40, building
Oh, that.
15 means. What does that mean?
Useful life.
Yeah,
That's useful life, so this is just years?
correct, that we depreciate over.
Okay.
Is it going forward or in total?
And you go forward up until, let's say, you know, if you do, buildings over 40 years, when you purchase that building, you depreciate it on a straight line basis, for the next 40 years.
Okay, but I'm saying that,
What do you
for instance, the seawall, it says 73, it's not 73 from here, it's 73 from when it was built.
Correct, that's right.
That's
Mhm.
Yeah, so it just so happens in 2068.
Mhm.
So it's okay if I just go through my
Sure.
questions? Okay,
Yes.
so page 31, it says let me just look. All right, so I'm on tramway revenue. Okay, so, this says that it was, received, like, in agreement, REAC receives from New York Transit Authority a fare of $2 for all swipes of a full fare MetroCard, including transfers. I was under the impression that was renegotiated to be a higher percentage?
So,
Is that true?
some text should be added about the Omni. Where Omni is, we're receiving what,
$2.90.
$2.90
Mhm. Correct.
for Omni swipes versus MetroCard swipes.
Okay, so can we
Yes,
just
we can
update
update that,
That'd
that's
be
fine.
perfect.
It is elsewhere, but we can definitely.
Yeah, because,
Yes,
yeah,
it makes sense to add it here
Yeah.
too.
you know, we'll probably, I'll have some changes based on this perhaps,
Okay.
and you'll just bridge the gaps where things are repetitive, wherever they occur.
All right. Then on page 32, I question, about the bus expenses. And where is it?
Mhm.
I didn't, okay, so REAC's share of motorgate revenues totaled whatever those numbers are. Parking costs were whatever those numbers were. Transportation revenue from the provision of bus services are whatever those numbers are. Cost of running bus services totally, whatever those numbers are. Additional revenues from the street parking meters for the periods total, whatever those numbers are. I did a quick, fast and dirty, maybe it's not accurate, but my impression was that the free bus services were supposed to be covered by revenue from parking, whether it was motorgate or street parking. And the numbers don't add up to me. Is that still true, though? Are the free bus services supposed to be covered by parking revenue?
We're not restricted to use a certain type of revenue to fund the expenses, let's say for the bus service. So yes, you have revenue for motorgate, you have revenue from meters, and you do have some revenue from the bus service from Octagon.
Okay.
So, that revenue, yes, can be used towards bus expenses, but, you know, we have other revenue sources as well that go into the operating revenue that could be used for operating expenses.
Okay, so it wasn't a policy that was
No.
in place? That was
No.
just my impression, was that it was a policy.
Well, consensually, we have transportation as an item, and we have revenues and we have expenses within transportation as a global element of
Okay.
the operation.
Okay, all right, I was just, that was my question, because I thought it was a policy and it's not,
No.
so that's good.
I did also answer all those questions. I don't know if you want to first read.
Oh, sorry, I didn't.
No, it's okay.
Sorry.
First, read our response and then.
Okay, let me
give
look
questions.
for
Yes.
it, I apologize. I'm looking for it. I looked for it before, I didn't see anything. Where is it, where is it? Well, you know, I'll just search on you.
Yeah.
Well, you can, we can, oh, some of these are, I guess, about the paginations. Because if you go through the overall document, it's one pagination. Okay. So,
Do you mind if I ask a question while you're looking for yours?
go, sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just don't want to step on you. If we could go to page 23, it's just certain things jumped out at me. The money market, the difference, the money market account significantly dropped, but the treasury bills significantly increased. What I mean is in 2025, money market account is 184,978, but in 2024 was $1,879,018, $1,879,18, which, you know, significant difference. But then the treasury bills, it just went up substantially, 29,422,155 versus 4,211,955. I'm just curious, is there any reason for that change, or is it just sort of a normal thing, better rates of interest or something?
Well, no, interest wouldn't cover that much, but the reason why treasury bills jumped up so much is because we received a transaction payment from Building 9 when 90% occupancy was determined. So this was per the lease agreement.
Okay.
So we received about $24.8 million, and we already had about a little less than $5 million in treasury bills. So that's what equates to 29. Now, your question on the money market accounts, so yes, in 2024, it was about 1.9 million. And the reason why it reduced because it was transferred to cash deposits to pay for expenses. Okay, good.
And also to add to that, we do a sweep from our money market account to our cash account is because the influx of the 24 million did not come in until end of the year or beginning of 2025. And usually the beginning of our fiscal year, our cash outflow is really high to fund our insurance premiums. And that's why there's, you see a drastic sweep in the cash account.
So just so I make sure, so because there was a shortfall, then you had to cash out the money market accounts to cover that, knowing that hoping that money was gonna come in, pretty sure it was gonna come in before the end because of Building 9.
That's correct.
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right. Is there any plans to build back up the money market accounts, or is that sort of a permanent thing? I'm just curious. I'm not, once again, not an attack. I'm just trying to figure this out.
Not at this point, and if anything, we'd rather put it in treasury bills.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so you don't need to maintain the money market
No.
balance for liquidity.
Correct, exactly. Yes, we can sell bills, you know, immediately.
So, there was one thing that I had, questioned, and it's because my, it was on Island House, and you said that you got the information from Island House, but my concern is I have heard through the grapevine in Island House that, and so that's why I'm actually checking with Island House, that they're not allowing, shareholders to sell their apartments unless the offer's up to a certain dollar amount. So I just wanted to make sure that that was not in conflict with the affordability, agreement that, okay, so hold on a second.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's something that I wanted to check on, okay?
Yeah, the current percentage that's affordable is 81%, and 19% was converted to market.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Mhm.
So what I'm just saying is if they're not allowing the internal people, which I am a part of, right, who bought at, the internal rate, to sell their apartments unless they're selling at a certain rate, is that rate considered market rate, or I just have to clear it up? So
Mhm.
would that mean all the apartments would have to be converted to the market rate if they're not allowed to sell it, if the apartments don't get an offer of the amount that the board is saying needs for approval?
Yeah, for our reporting purposes, we value it at market rate, because that's what it's being sold for. But internally, what they decide, we don't have, like, details on that.
Okay,
So you may want to follow up.
yeah, I plan on following that.
Right, so you of course would need to look at the co-op
Uh-huh,
documents to
Yeah.
see what they require, and then you would need to see the ground lease, to see if it's in violation of the ground lease.
And they're Mitchell-Owens, so, right?
Mhm.
No, it's
They're
not.
adamant to run,
Adam Mitchell.
yeah.
For the purposes of this report, this is what our perspective on what exists in Island House, including the numbers of units that they reported.
Correct.
So this is, this doesn't tell Island House what to do. This is our best report. Suppose that Island House, in actuality, had different numbers because they were in material breach of something or other. We don't know what.
Mhm.
That would change this in the future when we know more,
Mhm.
but we don't enforce it necessarily.
All right. I'm just, if there was a market manipulation, that wouldn't necessarily be in violation of any re-up rule. That could be another issue, right?
It would probably be another issue.
Right.
It's possible that whatever is taking place violates the terms of the ground lease. It's possible, but the ground lease is more or less a snapshot that was created when the Island House developments exited Mitchell-Lama. It exited under these particular terms.
Well, I'm not accusing of market manipulation. It sounds like it could be just a normal amount of manipulation that occurs with apartments and selling and such. I was just thinking aloud.
Oh, no, I'm not suggesting that there is any. I'm just saying that,
right, but it is an issue. It
Yeah.
appears like.
so we get reports about the number of affordable units in the various buildings. I don't think we audit those.
Right.
Thank you. And thank you, Drew, for answering all those questions, even though I didn't see the answers till right now.
No problem.
This is what I do, I get those financials, and then I read through them, and if I don't understand something, I write them down, and then I send them out. And then Drew answers, and generally I get them beforehand, but I didn't today, so thank you, I appreciate it.
If I could do math, I'd be an accountant or a tax attorney. I don't, so I'm a litigator. Hire experts.
Good. Okay. Now, you also asked about the auditor's report where, let me see, that's the, report on internal controls.
Yeah,
So John, do you want to start with that, the report on internal control,
Where's that?
page 54?
Yes, we issue a report on internal controls over financial reporting. When you read through it, we look at internal controls over financial reporting as a basis for designing our audit procedures, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of internal control. And we do not express an opinion on the effectiveness of REAC's internal control. So we look at internal control related to financial reporting. We're not doing a full internal control risk assessment. So we're only looking at very small portions. And what we looked at, we did not identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. However, material weaknesses or significant deficiencies may exist that were not identified. So we look at a very small portion as it relates to financial reporting. We don't necessarily delve into all aspects of internal control.
Okay, so we'll also be submitting a statement regarding internal controls, where you as Mary's the internal controls officer. She circulates the forms and procedures to be used by all the small departmental groups in maintaining their controls. And could you talk anything further? Speak anything further?
Sure. So it's a questionnaire essentially that is shared, and departments are asked to report back on key items, any known instances of fraud, any potential risk that they foresee within their department that they'd like to address, as well as several other things. And then there's department meetings held with each of those department heads where we talk through questionnaire, we talk through anything that could potentially become a risk. And then from there, a report's developed that will circulate to the executive team to review anything that came from those meetings and from that questionnaire.
So have these questionnaires been in place for years, decades? Where were these questionnaires developed?
They've been in place as long as I've been here, so 8 years or more.
Okay, so we probably need to update them, just like we have to.
Well, it's, I think, provided by the Department of Budget, so that's the template that we use. Mm-hmm.
So Mars, those questionnaires, are you familiar with them?
Which questionnaire? I have a hard time hearing a little bit.
Internal control questionnaires?
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with that. That's not part of what I do here, so I'd have to take a look. But Drew, that's something that you get from DOB, is what you're saying?
That's correct, the template. And we could provide it to you.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's, it has to be submitted and, in an orderly fashion, so.
Okay. That'd be good.
And then also it's part of our Paris report process as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Okay, the item, do you have any further items?
Most of them were, thank you very much for responding to them. Most of them were responded to. Let me, if I can get my cursor. My cursor's not working here. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, hold on a second. Now these are tiny, tiny, tiny. Oh my gosh. Okay, no, that's not it. Drew, did I miss anything? Because I can't find it anymore.
Oh,
Okay.
I can go through a few
Yeah.
things here.
Okay.
This is in the beginning section.
Okay.
So, page 9, just rephrase the, Building 9 narrative.
There are a couple of typos.
Yeah, well,
So
I'm sure we'll find one or two more.
Yeah.
Maybe a few that we don't find ever. That's, okay. Page 10, last paragraph about the tram ridership. So that should be fixed up.
Yes, it's not by, it's to, where it says on the second sentence.
Right.
Yes, it should be to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just, okay. And just as a comment, it doesn't have to be done, but it'd be nice to have the tram net figures.
Okay.
You know, because we have, we have the revenue, we know we know about that, but we also have expenses to get a picture of the operation.
Mhm.
You know, we have other resources and that subsidizes if necessary,
Sure.
just to have a picture, just to have a picture of the thing.
Oh, so I did have, sorry to cut in. There was an initiative to necklace the island with cherry blossom trees, and you responded that it was not just cherry blossom trees, but other types of trees as well.
Mhm.
Can we actually make, reinstate the initiative to necklace the island with cherry blossom trees more so than the other types of trees?
I mean, do we need to discuss that, like at an operations committee meeting?
We can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, as I understand it,
Okay,
in passing, cherry blossom trees don't work well everywhere.
okay.
I didn't have much else.
So, just, and this is totally off the off the beaten road. So, I know that the roadways project only go up to Motorgate, right?
I'm sorry, which
The
project?
roadways.
Yeah, roadway
Yes.
goes from just outside of Food Town to the Blackwell Park turnaround.
Okay, is there any, and this might be the wrong committee, but, any plans to do the, transfers from Sanctuary to the,
The Western Promenade, I guess, or.
The Western Promenade.
Sanctuary to Main Street,
Yeah, Sanctuary to Main Street. Where's
which
the-
goes by,
Right.
it goes north of the Octagon Field.
Where
The
the,
soccer field. There's like a transverse road that was for
Yeah.
access to get to,
To the
DEP.
side?
Yeah. It went by the road, it's north of the Comfort Station, just north of there, and it goes by
And
the
it goes
entrance.
into the DEP site.
It goes past
Through.
the garden, the garden club.
Yeah, and
And
then
it goes-
out to the
yeah.
other
I'm
side,
glad you know what
sanctuary.
I'm talking about.
I think that's a discussion for operation.
Okay, all right, so that's a
Yeah,
discussion
that,
operation.
that area is still under DEP.
Okay,
No, nothing much, just, on page 25, a curiosity. Sports park, we don't have a market value. At some point, we should have an estimate there. It doesn't have to be this year, this particularly since we just finished an $11 million refurbishment. Yeah, the real property schedule with net asset value.
Okay.
You know, it's just something.
we have the boathouse? Where's the boathouse?
Isn't that by the lighthouse? Is she talking about the, is it part of the PROW project?
On page 25, it says boathouse right under Blackwell House, just like the Shepherd's Chapel. Interest net asset value. I know where Strickland Labs is, I know where Sports Park is, I know where the lighthouse is, I don't know where the boathouse is. Do you know where the boathouse is? Do you know?
No.
No.
Well, good thing we're not carrying
Yes.
it for everybody.
Exactly.
All right, so maybe that needs to be eliminated.
Well, so,
Unless there is a boathouse. Maybe there is a boathouse, we just don't know where it is. Nobody here knows where it is.
But your question for sports park, so this is, based on book value, the values here, so we can certainly put that, what we have on the books for sports park, we can do that.
Okay.
We don't need the fair market value.
okay,
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, okay.
This is-
As long as you agree, John.
Yeah. John, is there anything else you want to call our attention to?
No, I think that was pretty much it.
Okay. Well, once again, thank you for comprehensive job here. Being familiar with the place helps. And yeah, I'm pleased to see everything wrapping up.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
One schedule that we have a little bit of a challenge with is always the procurement report. But now these are all either current procurements where we're expending money, or we have a net liability held for the contract because it's not closed out. Is that about right? When I initially saw that we had projects with end dates on them, I was wondering whether maybe this should be filtered out somehow.
Well, we include those, contracts that are still open. Some
Yeah.
of them are not.
So, I figured that out by scrolling.
And like the first one, we did make a payment, remember, to Able, Benson and Butts for $150,000.
Right, so,
Yeah,
so they.
for our fiscal year.
Yeah, so it was a wake up.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, many of the contracts, when they're complicated, don't close as cleanly as you might think. Okay. Well, I have no particular final questions.
What is Blackbound?
What do you,
Cloud license fees? $118,000? Just,
oh, she's talking about Blackbaud Market.
Blackboard is, it's the, financial HR ERP system, accounting software
oh, okay,
that we recently migrated to, Sage Intacct.
okay, okay.
Blackboard, right?
Yes,
Yeah, I'm
Blackbaud, yes.
just going through and
She's,
looking at the big ticket items, like LPC Inc. for 566. I'm just looking at the giant ticket items here.
Now, is that particularly
Fair
large
market.
because of transition? Is a Blackboard contract at that level because of the transition into it?
Mm,
Yeah, the amount expended for the fiscal year was $22,500.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, so it's a partial year, yeah.
I see,
Mhm.
okay. Well, I haven't,
Yeah, no
I
problem.
haven't gone through these,
Okay.
both sides, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, double sided.
Yes.
Yeah, if you could do anything to get this in, even in CSV, yes, yeah, anything that could not be this. I mean, I can blow everything up, it's impossible to do any real manipulation with it.
yeah, we can do the Excel file, right?
You could do that.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
do the Excel file,
Mhm.
it's easier to.
That'd be helpful.
Then a PDF, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Helpful for the curious.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's kind of difficult for us to blow it out too, because, you know.
And also sort it.
Yeah.
Wow, because this is like, it's this, looking for the bits and pieces. Treasure hunt. Okay, well,
Thank
Any-
you very much, though.
any other committee member questions, any other board member questions? Okay.
Just want to say thank you to the staff, Howard. I know how much work goes into an audit and all the related
Yeah, thank
materials. So, Drew and Marcus and everybody on your team, thanks for all the effort.
Welcome.
Well, it's wonderful to have something in a very presentable state. I mean, there'll be some minor tweaking, but it'll be done in a couple of days. And then, it's all set and just push send. Whatever the process is. Okay, is it a sense of this committee that we recommend to the entire board that this budget with the final changes be adopted? I'll make the motion.
I'd be very comfortable with that, yes.
Okay, so it's the sense of this committee that we will recommend to the board that this be adopted.
Great.
Okay,
Who
well,
said it?
okay, do we get to the agenda?
The last item.
Oh, the
that
last
you-
public, yeah, you
Mhm.
sent that to me, and if I didn't
Yes.
respond, it was
That's no
pending or
problem.
something like that.
Yes. So it's the ratification of the public officials and employment practices, policy. And, currently, the premium is gonna go up about 30%. In dollar value, that will be about $25,000 or so. And that's because of the current litigation that's going on. So it's driving, the premium up. We do want to stay at our deductible of $750,000. We could move up to a deductible to $1 million to reduce the premium, but it's a modest decrease of $12,000, and we might as well stay at $750. Because if we do increase our deductible, it would be hard to go back down again. And currently, the thought is to get a claims advocate on our account. The prior administration did not want a claims advocate, and the claims advocate would really help us monitor our litigations, would provide us any reporting guidelines or what our obligations are. So they would assess all that for us. They would be the liaison between Chubb and us.
And, whose employee would that be, ours? Or,
No, it would be Gallagher's. And it would-
Gallagher's,
Yes,
okay,
our
great.
insurance brokers, and it would be free of cost.
excellent.
Oh,
Mhm.
great.
Yes,
I like
That
free.
makes a
Yeah.
big difference.
it does.
Do they make money off of the change, any reduction in insurance fees?
You're talking about Gallagher, our insurance broker?
Yeah, the claims adjuster.
The claims so this claims adjuster would not make any money. Mhm.
Interesting.
Just what you wanted to hear.
Oh, there's an incentive, isn't there, if they make money off of how much they save you? Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you very much, John.
You're welcome.
Boris.
Do you have anything?
Okay, I'll entertain the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
And now we're adjourned. And this has been a meeting of the Roosevelt Island Audit Committee, and the time is 6:51 on June 16th.
Thanks, Howard, thanks, everybody. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a nice evening.
Keep this, or
You can keep that, yeah.
do I have to